For the majority of my youth, I grew up on a farm in rural Iowa. And when you grow up on a farm, you are tied to the cosmic forces of nature. Whatever happens to the weather, the crops, the land, it happens to you. You're beholden to a lottery of fate. Same can be said about family, right? And genetics. A lot of choices that you didn't make affect you every day. And when those choices are consistent throughout generations, they begin to feel like prophecy. And that's how it is in my family. Everyone I know has been touched by mental health. I remember growing up and hearing stories about people in my paternal family dying violent deaths, many of the time by their own hand. I'd always resign myself to the fact that that was my destiny as well. It was my burden to bear, and I couldn't escape it. Even when I was young, when I was 8, I would wander the farm grounds and look for a ditch or a hole, some place where I could lay down and just wish to disappear. When I was later, I would barricade myself in my room and ponder if the ceiling fan could hold my weight. I told no one and nothing changed. Generational cycles are not easy to break. They're not, especially in places like rural America, where stigma is attached to feelings and mental health. And I wish I could be up here saying, hey, I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who broke these cycles. It was my grit and determination that changed everything. But I'd be lying. And if I was going to lie to you, I'd go larger and more fun, I'd be like, hey, thanks for this Nobel Peace Prize. I appreciate it. In reality, it was my parents. They were the ones that broke that cycle. When I was a teenager, my dad sat me down and said, Zach, don't be a farmer. He said, and now I'm paraphrasing here, it totally sucks. And growing up on a farm, I totally believed him. And my mom, she told me to pursue my passions, have a life outside of farming. Pursue things that I deem valuable. I chose stand-up comedy, but that's not important. I went from living on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, miles away from my closest neighbor, to Omaha, Nebraska, right smack dab in the middle of it, the region's largest city. After that, Chicago, Illinois. After that, Los Angeles, California. And when I spoke to people, they spoke about their mental health in such a way I had never heard before. They were very nonchalant, like, yeah, I go to therapy. Or, oh, I'm medicated. That blew my mind. People like where I was from never spoke like that. They never spoke about mental health at all. People were never nonchalant where I grew up. They're always very chalant. Before that, the people that went to therapy, those were other people. Other people went to therapy, not me, not people like me. People like me, farm people, we did an old school. Old school, suffering and then dying. My parents had given me permission to pursue my mental health, to break with those traditions. And I was responsible for the next step. And with the stigma falling into the background, I finally took it. In my 30s, I started talk therapy. It helped. It still helps. But it doesn't help with everything. There was a time where I was so depressed, it had so many panic attacks and intrusive thoughts, I couldn't even order food from a drive-through speaker without having a panic attack. I would get these intrusive thoughts of saying hurtful and insulting things to every single person I met, which made going into public impossible. My first time on stage after the pandemic, I had one of the worst panic attacks I ever had. I couldn't even do the thing that had defined and driven me for the past decade. So it was that point where I had a choice. I had a choice I had to make. It was either give up on everything or get better. So I went and saw a doctor. And when I saw that doctor, I had a test. I took an intake test. I scored 19 out of 20, 20 being the most depressed you can be on this test. I know, I shouldn't brag. That's the best score I've ever gotten on a test. It's pretty good. I think I could have gotten depression Yale. Maybe not depression Harvard, but definitely depression Ivy League. I was diagnosed with severe depression, severe anxiety, a panic disorder, ADHD, and OCD. It made sense. That's a lot of them. But it made sense, and it was great to have something that I could put a name on my problems. A few days after being medicated, so much changed. Like, I felt like I was released from a prison, right? I found myself crying in a post office parking lot because I was able to have small talk with someone without thinking about hurting myself. And when I think about that journey, from being a small child thinking something may be wrong, to being a larger child knowing something was wrong, or being the 40-year-old child that I am now, medicated and happy, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I was given the permission and tools to take care of myself by my parents and environment. I know that some people aren't that lucky. Some people are never granted permission. The CDC reports that suicide rates in rural areas are much higher than those in urban areas. And unlike urban areas, rural area suicide rates are continuing to climb. There's a lot of reasons for this. Access to mental health care, the ability to pay for health care. And there's also that stigma that exists everywhere, but specifically in rural areas. One of the silver linings of the pandemic was the proliferation of telehealth, where you can see a doctor through the internet or your phone. And call me crazy, doctors have, but I prefer the telehealth experience to the regular health care. I don't want to go to a doctor's office. I'd rather do it from home in my underwear. There are resources like NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Health, that can put you in contact with the right people and also give you options for paying for it. So there is help and there is hope. All it takes is a little hard work and being honest with yourself. Things that farmers can handle. My family made the choice to give me a better life. And I hope you or someone you love makes the same choice. Thank you.